One of the questions I often get about advertising on Facebook or Google is, which one do I use? Facebook ads or Google pay-per-click AdWords? And really what it comes down to is that there's two different kinds of people who are hunting for information. There are active searchers and then there are passive searchers. So for instance, I would be a passive searcher for something like those inserts you put into your car, like between the seat of your car, because I'm like forever losing stuff and like garbage and it looks like small animals fall in between the seats of my car. So I might not necessarily look for something like that on Google, but if I see it in my newsfeed, I'm like, I totally need that, right? And I will go and I will purchase that. So I need it, but I really didn't know I needed it until I actually saw it when someone would presented it to me in an advertisement in my newsfeed. Okay, so I was interested, but not actively looking. Whereas someone who is actively looking is someone who's going into Google, they have a question, they have a problem, they want an answer, and they're typing it into that Google search bar. And then they're coming up with a whole bunch of search results. So really what it comes down to is what kind of person are you looking for? Is your product or service something that people would actively know to search for? So I do a lot of work with real estate agents, and people will go and look up homes for sale in, a certain neighborhood or in a certain city or in a certain area. Or they might look up a certain home type, but there's something very specific in their minds that they're looking for. And so I find Google pay-per-click advertising is really great. It's also super competitive because, this isn't new news. So a lot of realtors have figured this out. So it's a very competitive space, but it can also be a very advantageous space to be. Now, at the same time, for Facebook ads, like the example I gave you about passive searching, is just really, really great if you have, for two reasons. Again, if you've got a product or service that perhaps people don't know much about, so maybe it's new, it could be a new app, a new service, a new product. So like the example I gave you of the inserts between my car seat, people don't really even know what to call those. So expecting them to go into Google and do a search there is not probably terribly realistic. Now, the other thing about Facebook ads, which makes it actually better than Google pay-per-click ads, is the targeting on Facebook is second to none. So you get some targeting on Google, it's pretty good, but you get even better targeting on Facebook. So it's a bit of a weighing in the balance and a test and learn. So Google pay-per-click, people are searching with intent, so chances are you're going to get higher conversions because by the time someone's entered in a question, they're already way further along the spectrum in terms of readiness to buy. And so your chances to convert those is higher, but you don't get as good targeting and it can be a little bit more costly. So this again, but if you make more sales, then it's worth it, right? Whereas on the Facebook side of things, you have maybe less intent. So you get people kind of all over the map in the spectrum of readiness to buy. However, you can really drill down nicely to find the right kind of target audience. So it's kind of like, in the old days of an unaddressed ad mail. So I worked in database marketing, as people would call you at dinner. Yeah, that was me. You're welcome. And what you would do is you would just send out bajillions of these pieces of mail, cross your fingers, and really hope that something comes back, right? That someone will respond to that mailer. And what Facebook allows you to do is instead of just sort of sending it to everyone in a certain area, you're sending it people in an area who have the interests and behaviors and characteristics of your ideal client. So to make Facebook ads work, you really need to do as much work on that building up of your personas. Who is your ideal client? Like literally married, unmarried, kids, no kids, area, blah, 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 all that kind of a thing, so that you're only showing the ads to the people most likely to be interested in your product or service. Whereas on Google pay-per-click ads, the ads I've seen do tremendously well are localized ads. So for instance, I do Google ads for Burlington, right? So social media or coaching or a digital agency, Burlington. And so if someone's looking for a local ad agency, I'm going to show up really high in the results compared to if I was trying to rank for Toronto, at which point like every agency out there is already very competitively putting out SEO and pay-per-click keywords to rank ahead of me. And they probably have a little bit more money than I do. So at the end of the day, you really have to decide for yourself, where do your ideal clients come from? Do they know how to search for you? If so, what words are they using? And a great tool that I use, and I recommend that you guys use it too, is called answerthepublic.com. And if you go in there and you type in like a keyword, so again, if it could be like Burlington homes for sale as the sake of example, or even just like real estate or home sellers or whatever, and what it will give you is all of the Google searches being done right now in and around those particular keywords. And so when you're going down the road of a pay-per-click or an SEO strategy, or if you're using content and putting new content on your website so that you'll rank higher for these particular terms, it's important to use tools like Answer the Public so that you know what people are ultimately looking for to begin with. What I would also then extrapolate from that is that you don't necessarily need to only use that strategy on Google. You can take those same keywords and plug them into your ads. So either as interests and behaviors, or at least using the words that people would have used if they were going to do a search on Google. Okay, so you could put that into your ad copy, again, or your targeting, wherever kind of makes the most sense for your business. Okay, so in terms of should you use Facebook ads or should you use Google pay-per-click ads, there is a good reason for both. If you can afford both, that's great. The minimum ad spend that I recommend for Google pay-per-click is about $1,500 a month, that being your ad budget. The minimum ad budget on Facebook would be about $500 a month. And at the end of the day, what this comes down to is testing. So if you're going to do both, make sure that you are tracking your results so that when you look at your results on your Google Analytics, or you look at your results on Facebook, that you can see exactly how many people did both of those drive to your website, and then also how many ultimately converted. So if you're running ads on Facebook, you'd run the conversion ad. You'd install the pixel on the page after your form is filled out so that you can track exactly how many people clicked on your ad, went to your site, filled out the form, or did whatever it is you wanted them to do. If it's a product that they're purchasing online, you use a different event code other than, so lead generation, there's registration, there's checkout, there's lots of different types of conversion codes you can use. Pick the right one that tracks the exact behavior that you want to record so that at the end of the day, they say after a month you run these things, you can say, okay, Google pay-per-click ads drove this many impressions and got this many conversions, whereas your Facebook ad drove this many impressions and this many conversions, and look at the cost for both in order to get that. And then the most important thing to track is did they actually convert into sales? Because you might get a ton more impressions and a ton more leads or conversions, say from Facebook, but your Google pay-per-click ads are the one that drove the people in there that actually closed a sale. So don't just track the conversions of your different ads. That's great and it's exciting, especially if you have really high conversion rates. But if there's no sale that follows that, then ultimately you got to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what am I missing? All right. Or you have to look at your website or your follow-up process and say, what's not happening? Where do I have the fall off? So that, in so much that I'm not actually ultimately converting people into money. Okay, so hopefully you guys find that helpful. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. There's a ton of different ways of getting in touch with me. I try to make it as easy as possible. And good luck. Good luck in either running your Facebook ads or your Google pay-per-click.